Welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most of so they forget even when we come back. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. My guests doing the discussion this morning, Dr. Kwabena Nyako, O2 Deputy Secretary General of the Trades Union Congress, Godfrey A. Bokping, Professor of Finance and Economist, University of Ghana, Dennis Miracles Abuaji is Director of Communications, Baumia Campaign. Sharif Mahmoud Khalid is Associate Professor of Accounting and Finance and Economic Advisor to the Vice President. Kofi Bentil is lawyer and Senior Vice President, Imani Africa. And the show is brought to you by the candid sponsorship of Bank of Africa, Strong as a group and close as a partner, Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneur leaders for Africa. My Way Insurance, dial *165# on MTN to join My Way today. Ashesi, this week I read something from Ashesi, the law program they are doing and the colossus that they are taking into their law faculty. Charlie, I wish. Yeah, I wish. Charlie, the place will be good, eh? Esankoma and Co are going to be teaching, joining Mami, Mensa Bonsu. People whose thinking of the law is so good. Syntax Tanks, it's strong, it's tough. Safari Valley Eco Park, bringing you closer to nature. Waylead, your trusted home builder. Bethel Dental, the smile starts here. And Kel Charcoal Toothpaste, happy smile. You wanted to make a comment on the Bearco's situation, the former TOR MD situation, before we go to the ECG matter. Yes.
Yeah, I told you that, we're asking whether the government is doing something. I just saw the Deputy Attorney General has put up a kind of comment on his social to indicate that they have been engaging the U.S. authorities in the process.
The Attorney General, as we have seen, they have commended the Attorney General and the Office of Special Prosecutor for what you call significant assistance.
Yes.
So, what is he saying exactly?
No, I just wanted to.
Is he telling us that?
I didn't want to, railroad everyone here.
Yeah, but I'm saying that they should have the names, and as Kofi Bentil and others have said, all of you have said, they should be pursuing the receivers if the facilitator is now caged.
Yeah, and to be clear, the work on this case started long before. I can say in the previous government there were earnest, efforts. All right. SEC charged them around April 2020. There was a criminal indictment around 2020, August, working with the U.S. authorities. I have this on authority. Okay, so I think there's been a bipartisan effort, all right, working with the U.S. authorities, okay, from the previous government. So what you see is a culmination. But like I said, it started from when we had Dumso and we're trying to look for a solution to Dumso. The key issue is that, look, if the U.S. authorities have gone so far, our authorities must not be seen at all to be, pussyfooting on this. They should take it on, finish this, and the final leg is here in Ghana. Let's see that action happen. And then let's deal with the petty bribes that people have.
Okay. So Sramsai actually says that the Honorable Attorney General is working with his United States counterpart to bring to book persons who are implicated in the bribery scheme related to the 2014-2017 power plant development contract between a Turkish energy company and the government. Okay, so AXA is still here in Ghana, right?
Yes.
Interesting.
And their contract was released.
This follows Asante Kweku Bearco's conviction by a United States federal jury in Brooklyn, New York, on charges of conspiracy to violate the United States Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and other related laws. Okay, thank you for that. But maybe we should be told in much detail how exactly this is being done. Who are you following up on? The specific people. From where we sit, it's not difficult to tell who they are, who received the bribes. So let's be quick with this. Because the Deputy AG has actually announced that in the new legal term, they are going to see more oral cases, plenty of them. Maybe they should add these to, so that the MPP will not be talking about selective justice anymore. All right. So ECG, what is happening? Let's listen to these voices.
Ghana cannot solve a debt and arrears crisis by creating new hidden revenue losses. The questions we are asking the government, and he has to answer, is this. We therefore put the following questions to the government. First, which specific margins, levies or taxes are being reduced to finance the 2 cedi diesel relief? And what is the total revenue loss? Second, has this been provided for in the 2026 budget? And what expenditure will be cut to offset it? Thirdly, what mechanism will ensure transport fares and prices of essential goods actually reflect the relief? 4, will the 1 cedi per litre levy remain at its full rate during the relief period? And will costs previously transferred to consumers be refunded? On June 3, 2025, at 10 minutes past 11 at night, the government used a certificate of urgency to pass the Energy Sector Levies Amendment Bill 2025, imposing an additional 1 cedi on every litre of petroleum product. Our members of parliament opposed it and walked out of the chamber. The Minister of Finance assured Ghanaians that a strong cedi will neutralize the impact so that consumers will not pay extra at the pump. He promised that the projected 5.7 billion cedis in annual proceeds will retire energy sector debt and help end the cycle of power outages. That levy took effect on 16 July 2025, and it remains in force today. So consider the plain arithmetic. A consumer who has paid 1 cedi extra on every litre of petrol and diesel for more than a year now receives at best 2 cedi back on diesel for a single month and nothing at all on petrol. The 2 cedi reduction is not generosity. It is a partial temporary return to money already taken from consumers at midnight, while the levy continues to run.
So for the 2 others on the international market, that's price of finished products and the price of crude. Obviously, we do not have any control. But when it comes to the exchange rates, that is what we manage here to be able to support the people of Ghana. Can you imagine if prices or if the exchange rate was around 17 Ghana cedis as this government inherited powers compared to what we are seeing today? And so the economy is doing well. It is false if the economy is not doing well. The indicators are there for all to see. Dr. Bawumia said that when in doubt, check the exchange rates. And the exchange rate is evidence for all of us to see. For the finished products, like I mentioned, we have less control. The government is intervening with the margins and levies to be able to give us some respite. His Excellency the President directed the ministers for energy as well as Minister for Finance to monitor. And so at every given time, if that is the ideal intervention, I'm sure that government will not hesitate to exercise that.
All right, so I'm being bombarded with messages confirming what Kofi Bentil was bringing to our attention, that the commendation by the U.S. authorities is to the former Attorney General because they did that work and not the current Attorney General. But the question I'm asking is, that office is a continuum, it's government. So why will anybody want to take any praise for it? And Justice Sai's comment is being criticized in a manner to say that he's saying that to suggest that they have done something when they didn't do anything. It is the former Attorney General. It's an office.
Yes.
That's it. They must work.
Yes.
So please.
So all that needs to be done is for them to continue.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all.
Right. So on the power issue, you just heard Richmond Roxon, who is his lawyer, who is a PRO for the Energy Ministry. And then earlier you heard George Kwame Abuaje, who is the ranking member of the Energy Committee in Parliament with the NPP. So I'll start with Dr. Otu on this subject.
Okay.
So 3.5 billion US dollars, the accumulated arrears. How is ECG going to overcome this? And is the attempt to bring in a private, entity not the way to go?
You see, in this country, whenever we begin or we try to privatize, the first thing we do is to throw out figures to bastardize that state institutions to a point where everybody now agrees that the only way out is privatization. Okay. In the 2026 budget, we were told that in the last 1.5 years, ECG's revenues have gone up by nearly 90%. Okay. We were told that, in fact, since November last year, ECG has been, in fact, the country, the energy sector in general, has been up to date on payment to nearly all the IPPs except Car Power. And there's a special reason why.
You're right about that, yeah.
Yeah, Car Power, yeah. So in actual fact, the IMF data itself also says that even we are no longer accumulating new arrears. We are rather paying off some of the arrears. So the energy sector has challenges, but it is not bleeding the way they want us to believe. Okay. The new management that is in place is doing its best. PRC is actually implementing the quarterly adjustment tariffs to make sure that tariffs are aligned with cost of service. Okay. Now, all these things are being done, and there's a clear path that something new is happening. Okay. But there are people that are so much intent on privatizing ECG. One of them is the World Bank and the IMF. So you see, for example, the report your team shared with me from the World Bank, downgrading the energy sector thing. It's all settings to make sure that...
Reality or settings?
It's settings. You see, one of the things they said in that report was something about cook stove, is a stove, clean energy thing, yeah. And in that report, they said that they have a target to distribute about 470,000 and that the Ghana government has now been able to do only 38,000. Okay. How was the 38,000 done? It was through government support to the Ghana Cylinder Manufacturing Company to do the manufacturing itself. I'll come back to that point, but I want to go through the three things they said. The second was for Gridco to do what they call a merit order dispatch, to hire a consultant, which they have not been able to do that merit order dispatch. And the third thing they said in that thing was that the ECG was supposed to procure about 1 million meters, which has also not been done. And in the report, the Joy News report stated that you have a situation where the World Bank report was so replete with accusations of the Ministry of Finance failing to give approvals and commitment authorization. And in fact, reading that report makes me think that this commitment authorization done by the Minister for Finance is a masterstroke. It's one of the most important things that have happened to this economy in the last 1.5 years. The World Bank has a loan of 250 million. They want Ghana government to take so that we will do a clean cook stove. And once you take that money, you have to do international competitive bidding. And so you have a foreign investor bringing some imported stove. The Ghana government says that I have provided some support to the Ghana Cylinder Company. They are retooling. It will take time for them to manufacture locally and be able to provide jobs, but also provide, do the manufacture of the stove. They have money and a loan for Gridco to pay a consultant so that they can do what they call security-based merit order system. Something, what is a merit order? That you have an energy sector with excess generation capacity, okay, with different plants, with different tariff schedule. So you dispatch the one that has a least cost in terms of fuel consumption. Do you need a consultant to tell them which one has the least cost and which one has to be dispatched first?
No.
Okay. ECG is already doing know your customer, is deploying meters. In fact, ECG is procuring meters domestically. Okay. Giving domestic manufacturers the opportunity to also expand and provide jobs to their people, to our people. Okay. Some of them assemble meters. Some of them actually do manufacturing of meters. If you go for World Bank money, you don't have to do internationally competitive bidding. Some consultants and other companies will then import the meters into the country. Samson, this is a country that has just gone through a painful debt restructuring exercise. An exercise that affected even pension funds. And you see, even though we derive maximum benefit immediately from that exercise, the can was just put down the lane. In 2027, 2028, a lot of debt will mature for the ministry to pick up. And then all you think about is that you have $250 million they have to take a loan to be able to procure. So because of all of this...
This is what this is about.
That is all certain.
But immediately this government came in. This is not new. They have been telling us that this must happen because it's a problem with ECG.
The government has been telling, but I can also confidently say to a large extent, government itself is not too keen on this. It has become an IMF World Bank conditionality. And they will do everything to bastardize ECG and the energy sector to make sure that that privatization occurs. In fact, something, the 1 million meters that the ECG is supposed to procure, it is actually to make sure to enhance the boost and to the image, to rehabilitate the image of ECG so that they become good candidates for privatization.
Okay. Professor Bokwin, the Public Utilities Workers Union, they issued a statement earlier once they got to become aware that, you know, there has been the appointment of a transactions advisor. And they, as far as they are concerned, they propose the following practical and workable solutions to improve the performance of ECG and NEDCO as public utilities. 1, eliminate political interference in management structures and procurement processes. 2, appoint qualified technical board members and managing directors who are bound by clearly defined performance targets. 3, enforce transparency and accountability across the entire energy supply value chain. And 4, implement a comprehensive reform strategy focused on strengthening operational efficiency, financial viability, and long-term sustainability while keeping ownership and control in public hands. They say that government proceeding to appoint a transactions advisor and set the privatization timelines in the budget statement without acknowledging or considering their proposed alternative solution in the position paper was a breach of faith and a unilateral process that they are against. They also complain of operational and structural root causes which must be acknowledged. They say ECG and NEDCO are hindered by non-privatization issues that need addressing directly, including political interference in the management and procurement, non-technical board appointments, uncoordinated self-help electrification program activities, foreign exchange losses, reclassification of bulk customers, and a lack of transparency and accountability across the energy value chain. So they say that based on the historical outcomes in Ghana and Africa, transferring public utilities to private investors leads to increased costs for customers or consumers, reduced access to essential services, worsened operational inefficiencies, and threats to energy security, employment, and labor rights. They don't also want us to hand over control of ownership of a strategic national asset to private entities, which compromises national sovereignty. What do you say, Prof. Bokwin?
Johnson, interesting. We have discussed this before on your program.
Many times.
Yes. Let me say this, that the reforms under the IMF supported program came from Ghana government. It's Ghana government program being supported by the IMF. Of course, we know that the IMF makes a strong input, the World Bank and all of them. The issues that have been identified as the root causes have been with us for years or decades, even before this IMF supported program. I don't know to what extent the unions, TUC is also here, what have they done? What kind of progress have we seen? Why am I saying this? I'm not taking on TUC and the labor unions and the rest of them, but the recent IMF supported program, the energy sector risk was a big issue. And it is still a big issue. The data they are referring to here, what needs to be paid, the projections, these are not cooked data to bastardize ECG. No, not at all. What we should rather be seeing now as the effect of the IMF supported program is that there's a lot of transparency today in terms of even the extent of the losses going forward and the progress that we have made. Today, cash waterfall mechanism is working to some extent. You can credit that to the IMF program because we know what was happening with the cash waterfall mechanism before. Let me put it this way. If you look at the fiscal space that the energy sector alone takes, the extra budgetary allocation that we have to make to cover the energy sector shortfall, exceeds the combined budgetary allocation to the Ministry of Health, Food and Agriculture, Education. If you look at it, okay, so the issue is that are we, the proposal that they are making, that look at political interference and all of that, are we able to implement this on our own? We have not. Over the decades, we have not. And then again, there's no way we can reduce the level of losses from generation, transmission to distribution without a certain level of investment. Do we want that to come from the states and still be able to allocate optimally to other development sectors of the economy? Those are the issues. The proposal that we are making, how are we going to close the investment gap that will come with the necessary efficiency? We know that in the last 4 or 5 years, you know that even there has an increased allocation from the Ministry of Finance. Has it come along with the necessary efficiency, okay, and all of that? So, and then again, I think there's something that maybe I feel the government hasn't done quite well, and that what is the form of this private sector participation that they intend to do? Have they communicated this to the people of Ghana clearly to understand what because there are various forms of private sector participation. Which form are they going for? I see the discussion as letting go ECG. There can be another form of privatization where ECG becomes a holding company, right? And then in terms of distribution, we can zone this, and then private sector can take the power from ECG. We know the cost, we know the arrangement, distribute that, that's the collection, and then they pay ECG, and then ECG more or less all the heavy liftings and
this was attempted
interference of corruption.
This was attempted under the PDS, except that things didn't go right, right?
Yes, but we have the lesson of that. We know that there was some level of improvement when PDS took over immediately with collection and all of that. This doesn't have to take exactly that form. So what is the level of transparency and consultation that we need to do? Because the reason is that the two main political parties, NDC, MPP and NDC, played a role in this private sector participation we are talking about. The IMF program was negotiated by the MPP administration, and they agreed to these reforms, okay, which the NDC has inherited. And the NDC also agrees that this level of private sector participation is key in resolving the energy sector, especially with respect to generation losses, transmission losses, distribution losses, and all of that. So I think there has to be a broader consultation. There has to be greater disclosure of what kind of private sector participation are we talking about. ECG probably is going to be a holding company. There's going to be maybe 4 or 3 or so different private sector companies. This is how we are looking at it. It's still going to be owned by Ghanaian private sector and all of that, but they are not taking over the entire value chain and all that. We need to have that. But under this proposal and the way we have managed our affairs in the time past, I fear for what the risk that the energy sector poses to the entire economy and the fiscal space that it takes. And something finally, you will notice that the PCI policy coordination reforms that government intends to implement, they are mainly targeting, if you look at it, state-owned enterprises. Because over the last 15, 20 years, between 2.5% to almost 3.2% of our GDP is lost to the inefficiencies of state-owned enterprises alone, including ECG and then Cocoa Board and the rest of them. So if we go back to business as usual, it's just a matter of time, and we have to resort to the IMF and the World Bank for another level of intervention.
Right.
But I can see that as part of this, the PCI, the government has undertaken to conclude the private sector participation by June 2027. In fact, if you look at the previous administration, the MPP and all of that, the reform structure benchmark target that way. I believe that because of election and all of that, these reforms also delayed. But one way or the other, we cannot continue as business as usual, the way we have done things, because really, the consumer will continue to pay and pay and pay and will not get value.
Thank you. Dennis, how do we avoid and take away the fears of maybe what Justice Jones Doche will say, create, loot, and share? This looks to be a different situation. It's a need we have had for a long time. So we attempted it through PDS, didn't work, and now we are back trying to do it again. Yes, of course, just a while ago, there's been discussion about the AXA energy matter and issues of bribes, 1 million to the minister, 250 to his advisor, and other things. But doesn't this look like something we already need? So it's not a question of being afraid that somebody wants to benefit. That's why they are doing it.
Well, I mean, maybe I'll keep what I have to say and address this first. I think over-centralization was one of our biggest problems as a country. It's the reason why we have a lot of fear towards some of these things. Because sometimes I ask myself, this whole ECG thing is power distribution. The generation is a different thing. This is power distribution. This is like the last end of the whole power need.
Last mile.
Whatever. Gridco, they've done their work. The generators have done their work. Gridco has picked it up. It comes to ECG in its micro form. Now give it to us to use. Is that the case?
Yes.
Yeah. I have been to other countries, and I keep asking myself, why is it that ECG is the one distributing power to everybody in every corner in this country?
It's not everybody.
No, I'm just saying. I mean,
generally, yes.
Generally,
yes.
Yes. Because, again, in some serious decentralized countries, Equiapim North has Equiapim North Power Distribution Company.
Yeah, that's it.
Owned by Equiapim North District Assembly. It is owned by the municipality. They go and buy their power. And then they distribute their power to their people within their jurisdiction. What it does is that it improves efficiency because this company has a smaller jurisdiction, smaller team. He is able to expand his customer service points to several areas because it's just a Kiapim North. It starts from Obosumase, it goes to Eastern Premier. At Akufo-Addo, you go to Latte. That is it. Ebri is starting from, let's say, Ayi Mensa. It takes you to Obosumase. It takes you to Abuadaka or whatever, towards the Nsawum area. So these companies, they go and buy. Go and buy the power. Where is ECG getting it from? I'm just saying, where is ECG getting it from? Wherever ECG is getting it from, all these companies, they buy their power. Then they distribute it to their people. In fact, it would even engender better competition in pricing. Because we are paying for ECG's losses.
Yes.
We are paying for its losses. We are paying for its inefficiencies. To the extent that we are even paying for its inability to collect bills from other people. Collect money. Its inability to collect money from other people, we are paying for it. So think about it this way. There's an ECG office, district office in the Kiapim North, with a district manager. They are supposed to be having jurisdiction over all ECG assets within a district. But they are just a subset of the whole ECG thing. It's like ECG is in Accra and they have branches. Why don't you allow these smaller people, smaller companies, go buy their power and come and sell?
They do it in Namibia.
Yes, it's done in other countries.
They have regional distribution networks owned by the municipality.
Yes.
But then it's still a public entity.
It doesn't matter whatever it is.
Then it's not
it doesn't matter. It's about
this proposal
has been.
But I agree with you. I agree.
It doesn't matter whatever it is.
Municipalities owning distribution.
Yes, no, they own the
it doesn't matter whether it's public or private.
This
idea has been there for over 10 years.
No, Doc, I beg you.
Why not?
So why privatize the distribution one and then the
Doc, I beg you. The issue about privatization, public is not
neither here nor there.
If the public institution think they can set up one company and also be able to compete and get the business, so be it. But the most important thing is that ECG sitting in Accra and serving everybody in the country is the reason why, as we speak, my transformer in my area is not efficient.
It's not
because the organization is overwhelmed. It is overwhelmed. It doesn't add up that in 2026, a country like Ghana has one company. One company.
Are you thinking it's an overwhelming problem? Or?
No, but it's not bad. But it's overwhelming breeds inefficiency.
The question has been, how do you trust an entity that has been making losses over the years? I've interviewed Ben Boache on this platform many times, of the executive director of the African Center for Energy Policy. And consistently, he speaks to, because they do the research, he speaks to the threat to the sector, stability of the sector, by what we see. And now we are talking about arrears, $3.5 billion US.
So have you analyzed the sources?
We have to change the structure. Until we change the structure, the losses will continue to come.
Technical losses.
Because when you go to Nungwa and Teshi, the same ECG that we are talking about is the one that's supposed to be collecting bills from there. They are unable to collect it, so we are paying for
Aboblosi. People have connected power there. Nobody goes there.
But the biggest defaulter of power is the government. So why you mention Abuja?
According to
the whole problem is
African Center for...
No, but what is it? An organization that is making losses, what's your problem?
The losses significantly have been as a result of collection inefficiency, widespread power theft.
Yes.
He speaks about the revenue collection, which is weak, partly due to illegal connections and meter bypassing, which deprive the sector of much-needed income. The prevalence of electricity theft limits the sector's ability to finance its operations without relying on state support.
Council, you let me elaborate on this. For me, if I want to do the politics of the day, we'll just keep going around, because otherwise, the Minister for Energy told us that in 100 days, emphatical, is on video, in 100 days, he will fix ECG's problems. We are in how many days now? He said it. He was quite emphatic on video. He said it.
Yeah, but since they came into power, he's been telling us about this particular project.
No, you don't have to tell us. He said he will do it in 100 days. Why are you telling us? Why is it
he told us again that this will be done in 2027.
No, but he knew that, but he said in 100 days. That's why I said I don't want to go in.
He's allowed to change his mind.
As for his inability to do it, it's obvious. We don't have to waste time on that. I still insist that in this country, we can advance only if we properly decentralize. TUC's concerns about all these things is the same with all the decentralization efforts we made in this country in the past. When we wanted to decentralize education, they fought against it. When we wanted to decentralize health, they fought against it.
When was that?
Oh, let me tell you, one of the reasons why Ghana's education structure is still as it is now is because we are not being allowed to devolve properly. Basic education is not supposed to be run by Ghana Education Service in Accra. It is not done. So I'm saying that the resistance is there. But whether we like it or not, if we want to stop having this ECG conversation this way, let's decentralize it.
Thank you.
Let's make sure that small companies.
Thank you, Prof. Yes, Prof, let's hear you.
I've been looking at, again, that brings us to an interesting conversation we had during the National Economic.
Why is the government bent on this?
No, I wouldn't say government is bent on it. It's a discussion on the table.
Right. No, it's not a discussion.
Right, and as you would indicate, there's an IMF conditionality to the privatization based on this. So it's a conversation we are having. I mean, we may have divergent views on these issues, and I was just bringing out my divergent view, not government's divergent view. And I think in the room is only eminent Togbe Afede, who possibly agreed with my view during the economic forum, the National Economic Forum. We're like, look, ECG in its current state, with all the balloons of debts or whatsoever, is still a very viable company in economic terms, based on the utility it provides. So like, look, why don't we list the go public, clean it up a bit, and go public with it. In that case, there is stewardship, there's fiduciary responsibility, right? Because there will be what? Individual or, agency participation, or those that may probably decide to buy shares within the company. There's another alternative we may probably want to discuss. But again, when we talk about privatization, I think that we are looking at it in the sense of, okay, we are just going to put the entirety of ECG in private hands. No, there's been a conversation. There's been an IMF conditionality which has been inherited or grandfathered to this current government, which is being looked at. But you look at ECG in itself, it's a corporate behemoth. And the complexity of power generation and institutional players even makes it more complex and more. It's that, GNPC plays a role. Ghana Gas at the upstream side of things, all the way to the midstream where we have other players with Greatco. Then you have the last mile, which is ECG. But you see, I think that efficient, and thanks to the current MD, Engineer Pepene, who is doing a fantastic job in trying to see how... Oh, come on.
Sometimes
but if you're able to cut losses,
so the losses were it was 1.6 billion in 2024.
Yes.
Now it has come to 1.4.
We don't know where to go this year.
So if improvements are being made, and someone is saying someone is doing that.
Stop heckling him. Prof, continue.
No, I'm not going to fall for any heckling here because we are engaging a dissenting public.
Legitimate questions.
Yeah, we have legitimate questions. And of course, the legitimate questions will be asked for what has been inherited for. But where is being directed to, we have to pat people at the back for also doing the right thing. And that's how we, grow state institutions or even private sector institutions. So you look at what is happening now in terms of ECG. Some efficiencies and some improvements are ongoing.
No.
For example, look, metering and how to generate this. If you don't have an efficient system, there's a particular day of the month. If you don't issue the bills out, what it means is that they become deferred bills, right? That would hold up and will be rolled back in as debt. So if you don't have an efficient way of collecting some of these things, and if measures are being put to address this, that is some measure of efficiency that ought to be commended. We're not, this is, you see, the case of electricity. We've moved from a country of energy poverty to where we are today, so to trivialize it on political lens whatsoever. Right. But come to think of it, Samson, and the politicization which we bring to ECG, back in the day, who cared who the MD of ECG was? I mean, back in the day, right? This is to tell you how we allowed state institutions to function. But today, it's become a political subject as to who even becomes the MD, such that people are pushing over themselves to sit on the board of ECG. Is it for the performance of it or for what else? So these are the fundamental questions we need to ask ourselves as far as what energy distribution is concerned. You know, I think recently I have this book sitting on my shelf written by the former ESCON chief, South Africa, when he took over and what he faced. And they also had the good glory days of ESCON until what it is today.
When privatization came.
Right. So there's a lot more to do and several discussions to have as to what we're doing. But I think also in this country, when we hear privatization, it becomes a very scary word.
Centralized.
Especially for a utility like
for a utility like ECG, which is why I think that the engagement on what is termed privatization ought to be illuminated some more for us to understand across which value chain of ECG are we privatizing, which hands are we putting on it, what is the process going to be like, what's the end result of what we're trying to do, and what greater impact can we have.
The government's posture appears to suggest, look, we are tired of this opposition, we are moving on, we have to.
No, I don't think we should be. Yeah, I don't think we should be, right? But again, another sector to look at or aspect of ECGs, we need to look at procurement. Again, where we commend the commitment authorization regime to see what is being saving of. You have transformers, allegedly, I don't know, or cables or whatsoever, that are bought in quote in perpetuity, right? Buy them ahead of time. So I don't even know by which time it's 15 or 10 years, they'll still be fit for purpose. Right? Storage or keeping them is a cost, or it comes with a cost. Transporting them comes with a cost, etc. So I think we need to have holistic audits. Right? I don't really think centralization. I don't think centralization.
Okay. Let's hear Kofi briefly, and then such that some monopoly. The time is gone. Such that at least for some 30 seconds, each one of you can say something about how we honored the 8 people who died in the helicopter crash. One of the widows said the best tribute or the best way to remember them is not organizing this, but to fight the galamsey that they were about. Yeah, Kofi, ECG.
ECG has been a crime scene for decades. They even buy receipts for many years ahead. They've bought things, dumped them. So we know the problems. I agree with Dennis. The fact of it is they've shown not to be capable of managing our power systems. And what Dennis is describing is not rocket science. That proposal has been there for at least 10 years. I've been part of those discussions. COSECA, which I belong to, we've made these agreements. It doesn't make sense to run Kukurentumi's local assembly ECG system from Accra if you can't do it. However, let's get to the crux of it. The central issue why you have IMF in this picture is this. ECG presents a clear fiscal danger to this economy. And guys, it's not a joke that the financial issues concerning ECG, how much money they are taking out of our system, constitutes a situation that can bankrupt this country. And has been there for so long. When it piles up, then we do an ESLA, we go and find some loan, we do something crazy about it. Meanwhile, power is being used and is being paid for. So it shouldn't have that problem. The problems of ECG are 3. Commercial losses, technical losses, and government using power it is not paying for. And let me say this without fear of contradiction. The thing that a private sector person is going to do is 1, stop government from using power without paying. Cut you all off. Why is that difficult? And when they do that immediately, they start solving problems. 2, commercial losses is people stealing money that ECG should be collecting. Recently, when they introduced an app, it increased by many 100%. It's just managerial efficiency. I'm not downplaying the issues, but this is what it is. It's not difficult. And let me tell you why it is not difficult. Philip Ayesu started running ECG under the PSP, Private Sector Participation, as PDS Managing Director. Philip Ayesu doesn't have great, wonderful skills and things beyond anybody. But guess what? Without PDS bringing any money, just changing management and starting to crack the whip, ECG with the same workers, the same equipment, the same systems became better. Service became better. If you call, they will respond. So I know for a fact that if you change the management and you insist on they doing the right thing, ECG will improve without us putting money in it. Wait, let me finish. That deals with commercial losses. Technical losses is transporting power from here to there. Okay, there is a mathematical calculation about how much you should lose if your machines are efficient. Okay, we are losing more than that. Fix the machines. All right, so see, it's not downplaying the issue. We've gone around this issue so many times. Privatization, which you don't like, I don't want to belabor the point about what I've done, what we've been involved in concerning COSECA, but let me tell you this. There are many models, like he said. What we wanted under the PSP as a country was $1 billion to put in this area to improve the systems and whatever it is. Millennium Challenge Corporation gave us $500 million. We took it. And we promised that we were going to do the PSP, and then the investor was going to bring the other $500 million. We took it, messed up the PSP. We didn't get the $500 million, and that's why we are where we were. Now, if we choose that we don't want any new money, which I think is possible because PDS didn't bring any new money, we can change the management. I don't care if it's foreign or local, because MTN is not, you know, a Ghanaian company. But when I call, it goes. Okay. When PNT was doing it, I wasn't getting things going through. Let's get it done. If we don't want them to bring investments, as in bring money and therefore own part of ECG, we can pay them a management fee.
All right.
All right. But I agree that the problems are in the last mile.
Okay.
And so go back to what Dennis has just said, because it's been there already. There's no reason why every district should not own its own electricity. Simple. Okay. They can even buy generators and produce their own electricity.
The show is brought to you by Palladium Residences.
Every district should
Live smart, invest better. Heritage Christian University, educating compassionate entrepreneurial leaders. Abro Super Blast Insecticide, One Blast Total Protection, Valex Lease, affordable document management solutions, and Mwim Tuba Hospital. I need to get to pronounce this correctly. Mwim Tuba Hospital, in to serve a peculiar health need. My guests have been Dr. Kwabena Nyarko-Otu, Godfred Bokwing, Dennis Miracle Sabuaje, Sharif Mahmoud Khalid, and Kofi Bentel. This has been Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, as always, we put Ghana first. And my outfit is by Habil's Couture. You can get them on 0200 84 1988. Call them 0200 84 1988 and you get the best of kaftans. Thank you very much.